It's Wednesday, the 27th of March, 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Adam Lang.
Good morning, Michael.
Adam, we have 5 big stories to get through today in just 5 minutes, so we had better get going. Story number 1, the fight over minimum wage is heating up. The government, of course, wants wages to keep pace with inflation, but unions and employers are now on a collision course. The Australian Council of Trade Unions wants a 5% annual increase to the minimum wage. They've asked the Fair Work Commission to lift it from $23.23 an hour to $24.39 per hour. So that's a lift of about $2,295 a year in the full-time wage. Now, this decision affects almost 3 million workers in Australia whose wages are linked to it, and it impacts around 100 industry awards. So it is a big decision.
It is, Michael, and last year the Commission increased the minimum wage by a record 5.75% amid high levels of inflation. In the March quarter of 2023, annual inflation was up 7%. Now inflation is moderating somewhat, but it's still above the RBA's target band of 2 to 3%. At the end of 2023, it was around 4%, and there are signs it's coming down, but there is still a lot of cost of living pain being experienced.
All right, so that's the government, that's the unions. What are employers asking for?
The Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry has asked the Commission not to increase wages by more than 2%. The group's CEO, Andrew McKellar, said businesses are facing significant pressure and wages are one of those cost factors restraining their future hiring. He also indicated that last year's minimum wage decision contained errors he'd like to see corrected with a lower rise this year. Employment Hero's latest SME index, released this week, shows that median hours are dropping and the median hourly wage is slipping. Small businesses in particular are struggling, slowing down their employee growth and cutting back paid hours to cope with economic pressure.
Okay, on to story number 2 now. The proportion of property sellers making a profit in the December quarter jumped to 94%. The new CoreLogic Pain and Gain report shows the median gross profit increased to $310,000. That's a lot of money.
It sure is, Michael. The new report analysed 90,000 resales in the last quarter of 2023, and it found that sellers are overwhelmingly likely to make a solid profit. And those that make a loss, that's 6% or so, and about 5,500 of the sales, took a median $40,000 hit. Nominal profit overall hit $29.9 billion, and that was compared to $28.7 billion in the prior quarter. This time round, regional sellers were more likely to make a nominal gain, alongside those with a longer holding period and those who were flipping a house rather than a unit.
Adam, story number 3 is an interesting one. Crown Melbourne will retain its casino licence after the gaming watchdog declared the systemic failings at the casino, including money laundering and terrorism financing, are, quote, a thing of the past.
Yes, Michael, and there's a significant difference here between what's going on in New South Wales and Victoria. So a major hurdle has been cleared for Crown Resorts, which was bought by private equity giant Blackstone for $7.9 billion in 2022. The Victorian Gambling and Casino Control Commission said it was clearly satisfied Crown Melbourne should keep its licence following the damning findings of 2 royal commissions and a state inquiry. The company has introduced significant reforms to limit the risk of gambling harm and financial crime at its venue. And that is a very different story to what's been happening at the Star Entertainment Group, which is now facing a second inquiry in New South Wales because the state regulator didn't believe the casino operator had done enough to fix its own problems to do with money laundering and organised crime.
All right, story number 4, Solomon Lew is continuing to pursue spinning off his major brands. These are household names, including a demerger of stationery arm Smiggle, which is due early next year.
Yes, Michael, it's all happening at Solomon Lew's retail giant Premier Investments, where there's been a strategic review of the business. And as a result of this review, Premier is also looking at a demerger of Peter Alexander. It has indicated that it's planning to open Smiggle stores in Indonesia and expand Peter Alexander into the UK this year. Premier reported that sales have good momentum over the first 8 weeks of the calendar year. This is good news for the business, particularly given higher interest rates have led to ongoing speculation over what it means for discretionary purchases.
Last one, story number 5, a pretty incredible story. Donald Trump has entered the list of the world's top 500 richest people after a massive spike in his net worth.
Yes, Michael, on Monday, US time, Trump had his best day on record. His net worth has surged to US 6.4 billion. The Trump Media and Technology Group deal we've been talking about finished up its almost 2.5-year merger process, and his net worth jumped $4 billion. He's now among the top 500 wealthiest on Bloomberg's Billionaires Index. According to Bloomberg, his last peak net worth was US $3.1 billion on the back of his real estate empire. Now, that's not the only bit of good news from Trump. He was up against a deadline to post a US $500 million bond in a New York lawsuit, which he was reportedly struggling to meet. That has been cut to US $175 million in the state appeals court, and he said he'd pay it.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Wednesday, the 27th of March, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. And today is Wednesday, which means there's a new episode of our sister podcast, How Do They Afford That? It is all about making your money work a little bit harder for you. This week's episode is taking a look at savings accounts and term deposits and offset accounts, all those kinds of things as different alternatives for somewhere to keep your money. It is well worth a listen. You'll find that one wherever you listen to podcasts, and I'll put a link in the show notes as well. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.